Hello, I'm Katrine Christensen and I'm a PhD fellow at University of Copenhagen. And I'm here to talk to you about our research project and a little bit of my own research. And this is my agenda for today. I want to talk to you briefly about some research, and then I want to introduce to you the RYA project, which is my research project that I'm part of. And then finally, I want to talk to you a bit about what can we learn from teens and tweens, some early findings from my first study case, which is of Klassen from DR Ultra. And let's go. The first slide is a selection of excellent books offering research on Nordic drama and cinema, because during the 2010s, Nordic noir really gained international attention. However, all of these books that I've presented have in common that there's really nothing on children's and youth drama. And it's quite surprising because there is surprisingly little research on children and young audiences, although we take this target group extremely serious. They're part of the public service obligation, and 25% of the funding from DFI, Danish Film Institute, is set aside for children and youth. Nevertheless, research point to the fact that fiction is important as it provides a sense of citizenship and cultural representation, and it offers perspectives of different kinds of childhood. However, what's almost always the case is, as Casey Hermanson and Janet Sepanik argue, is that film and television are for youth and frequently about youth, but are seldom produced and often not procured by youth. But this is perhaps starting to change, because the next slide I want to present is just a film project which is called Lockdown in Denmark by Buster Film Festival and the National Museum of Denmark. And this is a small production. It is a 30-minute production that premiered at the Buster Film Festival last year, where children themselves documented their experiences during Denmark's lockdown, COVID-19 lockdown in spring 2020. So perhaps this lockdown film is an example of a tendency in the film and television industry towards getting to know the target audience even better, or to start co-creating with them. And this I will get back to. Because I've brought to you two reports by the DFI, emphasizing a closer link to the target audience. Publikum tættere på, translated into draw nearer the audience, is a long-term initiative that focuses on how to best cultivate and share insights about the audience across genres and professional groups, all at all stages of producing film. Vidste du is the second one, which is translated into Did You Know, is an investigation into the media use of the 7 to 14-year-old children, putting forward that Danish children do watch film in the cinema and they do use the same streaming services as adults. And these reports are quite interesting. And I am aware that listening to the target audience is not new. However, something really happened with the arrival of these 5 young ladies. And Skam, which is the picture is presenting Skam, the TV series really emphasized the importance of thorough investigation into the target audience and their needs in order to use that knowledge for themes, creating characters or storytelling strategies, resulting in producing content that traveled the world and really caught the attention of tweens and teens. Which takes me to RYA, which is our research project that actually builds upon the success of productions like Skam. This is our project website, and we are funded by Independent Research Fund Denmark. And the RYA project, Reaching Young Audiences, Serial Fiction and Cross-Media Story Worlds for Children and Young Audiences. The project runs from September 2019 to February 2024, so please stay tuned and please reach out to us if any of you have any ideas about what to research or just want to stay in touch or tell us about interesting themes or films and television shows that we are to investigate. The project focuses on film and serial fiction and cross-media story worlds for children and young audiences in Denmark, and compares with public service cultures in Norway, the UK, and perhaps Australia as well. The project has 3 work packages. First one is called Understandings of Digital Childhood among Commissioners and Creative Practitioners, and that is Christian Løkke Christensen that heads this part. I'm part of the second part, which is financing, development, and production of fiction for children and young audiences. And Eva Norup Redvall is my supervisor, and she's also the PI for the entire project. The third package is media use and notions of quality and relevance among children and young audiences. And that is Pia Maj-Britt Jensen and Peter Metrick that heads these researchers. We do collaborate with international researchers and also industry partners. This is just a quick picture to show you who's involved in the project as well. Because what I really want to talk to you about is my first study case, which is of Klassen, or the class. And I brought this to you so we can talk about what can we actually learn from tweens and teens, or how can we best reach them, and perhaps we do this by involving them more. Because the first study case that I've done I argue that it has a production framework which results in content that really speak to the target audience. And Klassen is aired by DR Ultra, which was established in 2012 with fiction as the core part of the channel's core mission. It focuses on Danish children and their reality. And they have 2 definitions of fiction. A, fiction is for the broad audience, and B, fiction is targeting a more niche audience. And Klassen is the most successful example of A fiction. Klassen builds upon what the DR Media researchers defines as main ingredients of a streaming hit. And that is a great cast, a personal mission, something at stake, recognizable situations from the daily lives of the target audience, elements of fascination, human relations, serial format, and multiple episodes. And I am aware of that many of these criteria apply to producing engaging fiction for all ages, not just for tweens and teens, and not just series. So what can we learn from Klassen? And that is perhaps that children want to be involved, and involving them is worthwhile because it's always present like a trusted friend, and it's still running. It aspires to become the longest running series in the history of Danish broadcasting. And it reflects the reality of Danish tweens. It's accessible on many different platforms, and it has incorporated co-creational initiatives into the production framework. And this is my model for investigation, how Klassen uses children and young audiences in their production framework. And here I really want to emphasize the middle part, because here they have incorporated junior editors to ensure that content has relevance and sounds and looks right. A junior editor is typically 10 to 13 years old and is invited to provide feedback on the overall ideas for episodes, as well as on specific screenplay. They are there to make sure that the adults doesn't mess things up by approaching the original idea in the wrong way. And even though it took some time to find the best way of working with junior editors, this role is now regarded as crucial in every Ultra production. Right to the point where Ultra now expects producers to use junior editors when they commission new content. Please bear in mind that this is the first study case of Ryja, but we do a lot of research on film and television in the coming years. So if you're interested in getting to know more about the outputs of Ryja, you must look to the site of CST, Critical Studies in Television online blog. And here we blog on a regular basis. So please do read here if you're interested in what we're doing, and stay tuned. These are my references, and thank you for listening.
But how do you address this audience when we've heard that it's so hard to get them to engage with the new content? And so
I don't think we should exaggerate. I'm going to be a little critical towards both SVT and others. It's not so hard. They should listen to, everyone should listen to Katrine. It's about getting to know the target audience and to listen to them, and we don't do that. So we had a lot of successes also when we do that, but we don't put a lot of money into it. But this is I'm going to show you a few, just 2 minutes here. This is like the self-image that we have. That's SVT. The public service TV in Sweden has 1/3, a little more than 1/3 of the audience. That is in the broadcast world. It's not at all like that in the online world, of course. And as you can see, people in Sweden watch more online TV now than they watch broadcast TV, and that goes for all age groups, and of course a lot more in the younger ones. And as you can see here, you just have to look at 2 things here. That's 9 to 19-year-olds and 20 to 29-year-olds. Their consumption of online video is almost, this is from 2019, it has increased. It's more than 4 hours per day that they watch online video. And of that, they watch 4% SVT and 8% SVT. So our image of ourselves is not really correct when it comes to these groups. And also we are losing them. This is the weekly reach of SVT. And as you can see, we lose most in 9 to 15 and 16 to 29. So it's looking pretty dark, but it's also looking...
I'm sorry, Petter, because I don't know if it's just for me, but your images doesn't change.
I've changed it. Okay, so you're still seeing first image or what?
Yeah, I think that if you have maybe that it's in another...
I will try again. Otherwise, you'll just have to trust the statistics I mentioned. I'll try again here. Let's see. There we go. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're on the second one.
Yeah, and this was the third when I said that the younger audience, the very small portion of their viewership is SVT, and Netflix and YouTube, of course, are dominant, and also that it's decreasing fast, and we can see how.
Okay, we lost Petter, I think. Okay, I'm really sorry. I think that we will try to get him reconnected, and in the meantime, we will head to Poland, to Maciej instead. And here we have a completely different thing. It's not a television or a series. It's how to reach an audience through fictional film. Can you just very shortly describe your organization and what you do?
I love to be in the meantime, especially that there was actually starting to give us a really interesting data. Well, I'm representing here probably the approach that is step after step, hopefully small step after small step, beginning to be the past in terms of especially youngsters. It's cinema, and it's art house cinema for kids and teenagers. I'm representing a non-governmental organization from Warsaw, Poland, called New Horizons Association. And as an organization, we are doing a New Horizons Film Festival, which is actually the biggest film festival in Poland, and it's very art house approach. But also we have a branch of different initiatives for a young audience. It's called Kids Kino in general. It contains festival distribution and education. And why I'm saying we are heading to the past, because also we are mostly focused on feature films. And maybe let me just sharply explain what I mean by art house film for youngsters. By art house, how we approach it is actually what is the aim of showing this film to kids or to teenagers. And the first thing that we establish is that we want to create more, as simple as it is, empathy in the society. That means that the art house film should have this psychological truth in it, which is then bringing the sort of compassion and empathy into the viewers. Then it's about thinking out of the box. So not only standard films with the standard 3-act structure and so on, but also different things. And probably the third thing could be the fragility, the taste of the own taste of visuals and so on that could be created by a art house movie for kids or for teenagers. So why I'm saying that it's coming to the past, because observing the market, observing the content, I very strongly believe that at the moment the crucial thing is how to get to the young people. And as a cinema, we are actually, in general, as a part of the market, wouldn't be curators actually. A curator could be a television channel, non-linear basically at the moment, or a platform, or even some channels on YouTube. So the place where the youngsters are anyhow, and then having them anyhow in-house on a platform, on a non-linear television, we can propose them different things that will last at least for a couple of months and make them, you know, not maybe on first episode, but on the third or fifth, being interested and then grabbed in. That's probably the more or less the success story of The Class or other series. So this is the future, and how we try to defend the feature films here is we try to start to work with features films in cinemas from the very early stage. And it's simple as it is. We try to show them, first of all, the live action movies from the 4 years old. There are feature films for with actors for the preschool children, which is first bringing them another idea for film that it could be with actors. Second, that is edited in a slow pace. Probably the most crucial thing about bringing the fragility to films is the editing, how fast it is edited or how slow it is edited. And then how intense are the emotions, but not so intense are the inputs from the screen brought to children. So this is the first thing that we try to work with them from the very early stage. And then we are trying to head them step after step through topics that are interesting for them, basing on European cinemas, into being a teenager and actually being interested not in a, let's say, High School Musical as a sort of, you know, maybe over-exaggerated example, but in art house films, is that we try to push them out from our, let's say, kids department on the age of when they start to think about themselves as teenagers, 10, 12, maybe 13, 14, with films that are semi-artistic, semi-for children. And here, there are a couple of examples, like, for instance, Japan Mirai. It's a manga film that was running for Oscar last year, or The Red Turtle, like an animation, or Summer 1993, a beautiful Spanish movie, art house movie, that we actually, in our framework of festival and education, we advise parents to watch still with kids, because those are the films on the edge. And probably the thing is that is most important at this point is that we are seeing a success by leading the audience from the step to step and then letting them out. That actually our audience on the festival and education programs voted themselves that they still want to bring their children, even if they are 12 or 13, to our films, because the festival was mentioned to be up to 12 years old. And then when we started to screen films like 11 plus, so on the edge of the target audience, we a little bit surprised see that there are people coming with their kids to the venues in different cities in Poland, also in Warsaw, but also we do it in other cities. So that means that the relation with the festival, they want to last in this quality art house cinema, even if they are starting to be teenagers. And here probably for the final point is the crucial thing. Who is the one who's passing the cinema to them? Because obviously the biggest challenge is that the parents, the younger the children are, the more they want to be the curators. But the older they are, starting from, you know, some parents are a little bit fed up with their kids when they are 7 already and 8 and so on. And of course, the children are fed up with being brought to cinema and pre-programmed by their parents. And here it's where we are losing the audience, because it's so difficult from commercial point of view to get direct to the teens audience, because this is the world ruled by very commercial rules.
But so would you say that it's would you say that it's more important to gain this continuous contact than how good each film is?
Yeah, that we need this somebody who will transmit that to the children as long as it's possible, to make them somehow affected and affected by the different way of storytelling that is proposed by strictly commercial propositions and strictly commercial way of storytelling.
But also that they know you, and that they're used to approaching films that you present to them.
Yeah, exactly. And then you could create them space when they can continue this sort of experience with this kind of cinema, like a festival, but also nowadays like a VOD platform that we are also doing. So this is the place where they can be sure when they enter it, they will find whatever they need to find, they will try to find it there.
Yeah, so I think that's a good place to stop you there, Maciej, and we'll go back to Petter, because I think that's a real nice touching point, that it's so important to find a way of having sort of a continuous contact with this target group, and that they feel welcome and cared for in a way. So I'm sorry that we lost you, Petter, and we'll try to go back to your interesting data. Now you have turn your mic on.
Wow, the technology is really with me today. Hello. Don't know what happened. I will go back to the presentation. I'll be really fast. Viewership is going down in young groups, and that's the weekly reach for our online service as well, of course. And then the young people, there you can see how their contact with SVT decreases a lot from 7 years to 15 years, and the boys leave earlier than the girls. And this image, do you see that now with the blobs?
Yeah, we see it. Okay,
thank you. That is that is kind of an image of how it differs. We who grew up without the media landscape of today, we think that media is one thing that we put our time on. For children, this is from research we did on 7 to 15-year-olds. I will send it to you, Katrine, because it's really interesting about how they see the world and media. And media is the water they swim in. It's not something they do or something they go to, or they're always in it with their phone and with their contacts and with their social media and everything. It's their life in another way than for us who didn't grow up in this world. The world is different, but public service can reach them. We do that occasionally, for example, with this series that we have now, the Festen, which is set in Malmö. When we do stuff, like Katrine said, that is based on the research, but also really close to that when they feel the target group, that we see them, that they recognize themselves in what we do, then we can reach them, because what they can't get on YouTube is their own life dramatized. People don't have that kind of money on YouTube to do that. We can give them really great drama. We can give them also really great journalism and other stuff. So we have a role, but we're still stuck in an image of how media works that is so wrong. Our broadcast minds are still functioning. This is how Klassen looks in Sweden. I wanted to show you that. Season 4. This is another hit we've had, a youth drama about hockey and music in a small town called Eagles. And we have a lot of content for young people, but not a lot of it reach them. And I think that's enough of the presentation, actually. Let's talk.
Okay, I think it's interesting that if you have, the way that your own sort of research looks like that, the target group, the young audience, says that they leave SVT if when they get older, if they ever were there, depending on maybe your social economic background.
No, in Sweden, actually, our children's up to 9 or up to 10 or so, we reach them pretty well, and depending on which social group, that we have checked on that. So we have a pretty good situation up till 9 years or so when they start leaving us, but we don't really catch them with ongoing offering for the whole year, which I would like to have. But also head of culture and head of sports and head of news, they also want more money. So I'm just one part of it here.
Yeah, but it also sounds like that when you have asked the young audience about this, that they say that they don't feel like SVT cares for them, and I guess that's
it's a lot worse than that. From the age of 12 and up. They don't have a relationship at all. You could say it's something the parents watch or something they have nostalgia about. So, and then suddenly Festen or the Eagles or something comes and they actually get it in their feeds and they watch it. And I see that as a sign. I mean, Scum showed the way, of course, that, oh, wow, we can make youth content that really works. And then we have done it over and over again. But my company is not really offering them something that they can have all year. We're still just 4% of their media consumption.
But can I just say, do you think that it has anything to do with how how websites and how the content is presented? Because when I read your whole presentation, it sounded like they like Netflix more because Netflix tells them what they should like.
No, I think YouTube is their absolute favorite. That's the media outlet that is closest to them, and it's because of the algorithm too. It's very personalized. It is close to them. It's hard to compete with that. They give them what they want more than we can. But there are things that YouTube cannot do, and they go to Netflix for high production drama as everyone else. But seeing life in Sweden, I mean, Klassen, that Katrina told, shows that I was so surprised. Klassen is such a low budget, not very shiny, glossy thing. It's really down to very, very small and it's like seeing, and when I was a kid, I didn't dream of seeing that on TV. It's like, I wanted, science fiction or get away from it all, but they have that. They have that in abundance. So what we can give them is an image of themselves, a mirror, and they want that. And that's a hope for us.
But that's one question I have. Don't they need larger than life stories from their own country?
You can make larger than life stories, but when you start, we have tried to make, one of the youth series we have done was a genre series with 12 girls trapped in a secret house and they didn't know how they got there. But then you're competing with so much better. I mean, we can't compete with Netflix, really. I mean, it wasn't our best series, I can tell you that. Our best series have been the ones closest to the things that Netflix don't do, to be precise, or to find the gap between YouTube and Netflix and the needs that they can't. And when I say Netflix, I mean all streaming services, of course.
And can I ask Katrina, have you looked into this? Because with what type of content? Because when we talk about this success stories that we have, it is that you have stories that have been told with working close to the target group, but of course that's going to become a certain type of story. Have you looked into that we lose any certain type of storytelling or type of stories?
Yeah, I really must say that I really agree on the points that Peter made. And just to make sure that I'm not sure whether or not children really want those larger than life stories, because they can get those on Netflix, for example. But I think that maybe they just want to see something that's really close to them, and to be able to reflect themselves in the content that's produced for them. And just to come back to what you really asked me about, is that I do think that children have another look upon quality, because they they go to YouTube, and it's not content that's produced for, it's often free content, like produced for zero money or zero budget, but they pretty much doesn't care, because they just watch whatever they like and whatever they just touch upon. And usually it's not presented to them by the younger, like all adults like us. They want to be able to just find it for themselves and to have them for themselves.
That's one question I have, though. How do the young audience find what they like? Do they really just find it themselves, or is it through other peers, or is it the Netflix suggestions?
Yeah, and that's the question I really like to have a concrete answer, or a more specific answer to, because I think that sometimes it's actually social media that presents them with stuff. I'm currently looking at a web series that's aired by YouTube, but I think that the children really found this series on Instagram, and then they talk about it, and then it's presented to them on Instagram, and then they go to YouTube to watch it. So the big question is, and I'm not sure whether or not I will be able to find an answer to on this in the nearest future. Like, there's so many places that these young people are, and finally, if we do find the answer, they'll probably go somewhere else.
Yeah. Petter, do you have any sorry, I come to you, Maciej, just in a minute. Petter, do you have any comment for that?
Yeah, we in the children, the parents play a large role, of course, but that really loses from 9 or something. That the parents lose control completely. And yes, the friends, the peers, and the social media is where they get it, and they get it from many places. They get it from, I mean, if look at a show like X on the Beach, for example, a big youth content thing on commercial media. It reaches them on TikTok, it reaches them on Instagram, it reaches them everywhere. It comes from all directions. And we don't have that kind of apparatus. We, of course, have social media postings and stuff. And when we have really relevant content like Eagles of Festen, they start spreading it. Now Festen is completely going by itself. They are talking about me. But to get to that level is the big trick, because we have a lot of things that go totally unnoticed, and then we have those things that are in the loop that are really, and how to get everything, to get something into the loop. With Eagles and Festen, we did a lot of things to get them into the loop, and some worked and some didn't, but it's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Maciej, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on that, maybe something pretty banal, but actually have a sort of strange pleasure of talking with a couple of marketing agencies. And from my perspective as entrepreneur, I didn't really even 5% have this consciousness how well this world of social media of children 9+ is well known by those marketing agencies that are serving all the content providers, or the content providers with a sufficient budget. So it's not, from my perspective, knowing these surveys that they are doing, that it's coincidental what is happening where. Of course, at the end, the content have to be the proper content for them, but actually those social media and also those, all those small social media that are appeared that they are well known since, I don't know, 6 months or something. There are this kind of different places. So I'm not talking only about Facebook or Instagram. They are not on Facebook probably anymore, but they are pretty well known by the marketers of content providers.
Then we had an issue. I read somewhere that it could be in one of your presentations somewhere, it could be a problem with one of the shows becoming too popular with older age groups, especially the parents, when the parent wants to watch the show with their kids. And Maciej, you talked a lot about the parents when you did your presentation, that the parent is very important in order for them to go to the festival or go to the cinema. And I guess for a cinema, it's much more important that the parent maybe is involved, because depending on how far it is to get there. But for a television show or some film that you can access at home, it's of course different. But Maciej, do you have a comment to this? Is there any type of films?
One general comment is that we made a survey, and I wondered how is in other countries. It was a survey about those adults that are transmitting culture to children, that caretakers, parents, pedagogues, and so on. And in Poland, it occurred that actually all those adults are treating different arts as arts, but they are not treating film as arts. And the film is entertainment for them. So they are not looking for additional values and are not willing to use the film as a good purpose for talk on this kind of things. So this is the first crucial thing that we are having. And then as a small distributor and festival organizer, we at some point had to admit that we are basically heading everything that we are doing to parents. Our target of our campaigns receiver is of course the adult. I mean, it's not of course, but for us, we have to face that. And then this adult is passing the thing that we are bringing to him and of course showing to kids. And this is the point where when this should convince the kid, but transmitted by the parent, that the kid will be okay to watch it. We completely gave up the direct channels to kids because we cannot compete on that field. Budgets at least, and our knowledge, of course.
And you, Petter, you nodded yes when I said that it could be a problem with the parents. Or
oh yeah, I know that. I nodded because I think it has changed a lot. The thing is that we, as the parental generation, I'm still in, is we think that we know stuff that we don't. The difference between our lives that we live daily and their lives, and also the reference points. I mean, 20 of the 25 most popular or most influential people in Sweden, people over 40. For people under 20, people over 40 don't know who they are. We live in in a way that I think we have to go back to the 50s or something, 1950s, when they said like, now rock and roll is coming and we don't understand what that Elvis guy is doing. It's like the difference is even bigger today between the media realities we live in. And we who are 50 must understand that. If we try to do content for ourselves and not really researching what Katrin said about this, I don't think it's a big problem that I'm 50, but I think it's a problem if I try to make content based on my own youth. That is totally wrong, and more wrong than ever. We are, and I want to scream, and I think many children would love their parents to be more interested in what's on their phones. It's not like they want their own reality. The parents aren't interested. They aren't interested. They're into their own little broadcast, whatever, old media bubble, and they don't listen to the children. So I think that's a big problem.
Katrina, is this something that you also recognize?
Yeah, I pretty much agree that you can't really produce relevant content by just trying to figure out what you needed yourself when you were a child. Like even now, I'm in my 30s, and I can't relate to how it's like to be a teen or a tween today. So you really have to talk to them, and you really have to be humble, and you have to seek them and to be interested in the lives that they live, because you can't really figure it out. It's simply not possible, because we adults, we can't be like kids. This will never work.
Yeah, but then I have one question. Being a person that fell in love with movies and fictional content at a young age, and did so much thanks to this SVT and the things that you saw there, because this was when you only could see linear TV, and you were it sort of ended up watching things that you didn't know that you would like because that was the only thing that was on. Is there a way to replace that experience today, and how?
Yeah, I really think so. For example, we are experimenting on our Ultra, on our children's SVT Barn. We are experimenting with after you see one episode of something, you get a short trailer or about something else. In the online world, we can build systems for that, but we have to pull them in one time. They have to know our platform. But when they do, yeah, we can kind of show them things they didn't want. And it hasn't been like that because the online universe has been very, I mean, the TV, SVT Play or Netflix or so at least, but you see that Netflix has started too with a lot of trailers and they have their algorithms and we have ours. And I think we can do that. Yes.
Okay. And Maciej, with working with art house films for a young audience, people who do that, we always have to sort of pull the person in, and then usually when you force them to watch a film, they usually like it, but it's hard to get them there.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. The first point is even earlier, to show them the cinema building can actually look like an art house cinema building. Basically, when they are coming to our cinemas, they are not recognizing a cinema in those buildings, because for them, cinema is something connected to the mall and all this, glamour, glittering surroundings actually. So to find their tracks to art house cinemas in their home cities, like from the sociological point of view, where it is and how to get there, and it's easy to get there. This is the first point. So we do it by, as you said, having an adult, either parent or teacher, who's bringing them in by force in a way, and then we have this 90 minutes not to screw it up by again the good introduction, and that's working actually. This idea that parents want to come in with kids for a semi-art house between kids and art house film, like the one that I mentioned, and the kids are coming with them. As a 12 years old, I believe they really have a choice not to go with their elders to a cinema. That's a kind of idea that is on a working, but it's of course a very small. It's nothing statistical, in fact.
Yeah.
So that was a problem.
Petter, have SVT done any? Because I mean, the adult part of SVT has a lot of feature films that are very popular, but there's not much for a young audience. Have you worked with feature-length films?
When it comes to feature films, we are only co-producers, and we are co-producers also in children's films that are shown. But since they are mostly shown in our, our channel for children our broadcast channel for children is dead. It's very few people watching there. So you have to find the film on our SVT Play or our Barn Play service, and often you don't find them there. They don't get that exposure. So yeah, the feature films have problem because it's easier for us to build brands that last over the year, like Klassen, than to get them to find one of something. It's really hard in a service to do that. So yeah, feature films have a smaller part in the online. And I have to say something to the creators. If there are any creators listening here, I mean producers or people who want to suggest children's content to us, you should really please pay attention to what we said, because most of the people who come to pitch to me stuff, they pitch stuff that are not based in children's reality today. I had this dream to do this when I was young. That's the most common thing, and that's not what we're really looking for.
Yeah, and Katrina, do you have any? I mean, you talked a lot about TV series here, and when you look at TV series, it's of course easier to build this relationship with the target audience because it goes on for a longer time. For a feature film, it's for 90 minutes or so, and then it's another film. But do any of you, even though if you haven't looked at TV series, does Ria look at feature films?
Yeah, we're about to start to look into feature films, and I see there's like I just attended a webinar actually some weeks ago about family films, which are booming. So it's not because there's nothing out there, let's say feature films, but I must also agree with Peter again. It's hard to get them to see it because there's only one, and it's not like a mutual friend that they can relate to on a daily basis. It's something that they go watch and they enjoy it, but it's harder for them to find it, I think.
I have a saying that the young audience is not looking for programming or they're looking for ongoing relationships, and because that's, you know, it's the pod world, it's their influencers, it's ongoing relationship, and then we offer them one. It's really tough.
Yeah. Maciej wanted to say something, and then our time is also running up, so we
yeah, just wanted to comment that the basis of the features at the moment in this industry were cinemas, of course, as Peter said, that they are not working so well for broadcasters and so on. So this is the time when we will check actually where we will get up after pandemic and where the cinema business will be. And most of all, because I think there's the art house cinemas for adults, let's say adults, are secure that people still will be coming to cinemas to watch those films. But regarding family content, I'm not sure that we will come back to the point which we left. And that will be a sort of threat in terms of financing and showing feature films for young audiences, non-studio based films, let's call it like that.
Yeah, I just have one final question that I feel that I forgot, and that's we've talked about sort of this audience being one target group, but is that true? Isn't the young audience just as divided as an adult target group with different tastes? Katrina, maybe.
The short answer is yes.
Yeah.
They're just as divided, just as different. Like I say, a 10-year-old boy is not the same as a 10-year-old girl. They do not have the same interests. They maybe, if they live different places, they're different. So it's actually true that it's so difficult to just talk about this audience as one. But I'm not sure I have the answer to what we then must do.
Yeah.
But you are perfectly right. Like there's.
But Petter, is it for from your point of view? Is it okay to do a show that you feel would only address like 10% of this target group?
Absolutely, we have to do both. But there is. In the broadcast age, we could put a really important documentary between two super popular shows, and we have tricks like that. It's a lot harder here. I don't think it's public service to just produce things. I think a public service exists when someone watches it. So yeah, 10% of course, but 0% not. So if you reach your niche audience, then it's fine. But if you just do something for a niche audience and no one sees this, then that's not fine. I'm careful with the taxpayers' money.
Okay. Yeah, I think that we are about to sum things up, unless we have any questions from the people listening in, or if any of our panelists wants to have something final to say.
Thank you. I put my email in the chat if someone wants to ask me something afterward.
Yeah, I had one question for Katrina here earlier, which was actually about your research method used in the framework of the third package.
Yeah, and just to be clear, this is not my package, but what I know about what Pia and Peter is doing is that they've just made a huge pilot, and now they're about to investigate and about to line up the full investigation about media use of these children. But what they're about to do is a netography, I think it's called. But please email me and I will get back to you, and maybe Pia and Peter will get back to you on the more exact methods, because this is really hard. It's a really hard investigation, and there's a lot of thoughts into the methods of how to investigate the media use of children and young audience.
Thank you, Katrina, and thank you, everybody. We had one question here about if the parents gave up viewing TV or films in the cinema with their kids. I don't think that's completely true or what we said, but
no. But Mariella has a very good observation here, because that is what we have noticed now, that co-viewing content is we have too little of that. Where we had a huge success in Sweden with Best in Test now, and suddenly we saw that we had too little co-viewing content, and it's not good enough to put children's content there. It has to have so now it's a lot of focus where I work on what is co-viewing, except for the Paddington movie, which is super co-viewing material. What is co-viewing in the new TV world? And Mariella, it's during investigation, and we are doing a lot of trials now on SVT.
I think that also has to do with how young the kids are. Co-viewing is probably more common for younger kids than for teenagers.
Yeah,
Maciej, one final thing.
Yeah, it's one final thing that I very strongly believe that last year changed the customs, and for the last year with pandemic, the people that were trying to control, trying to curate, trying to be aware what kids are watching, most of them, a majority of them gave up because of home offices, because of kids at home instead of school or kindergarten, and so on and so on. So the parents have to admit that they cannot pre-control or co-watch all the content the kids are consuming. So the percentage of the co-watched films is also based on not only on the content, but on the custom in the families.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Katrina, Petter, and Maciej, and everybody who tuned in. I hope we answered a few of all these questions that arise when you talk about this target group. There are a lot more to be answered for sure. And hopefully Katrina and her peers can give us some answers in 2025. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.